Naval Station Great Lakes in North Chicago, Illinois. Every single sailor recruit who enlists in the Navy shows up in North Chicago for 10 weeks of basic training. I've had the privilege of attending those graduations. I see those 17, 18, 19-year-old young people, men and women, who say, I want to serve my country. I want to put on the uniform of the United States, go to places I do not know, do things I have no idea if I'll be able to do to protect the American people and the American way of life. Many of those people serve 2 years, 4 years, many serve 20 years or more. All of them committed and dedicated to bettering our country. And many of them, when they finish their service, are not done serving our country. And they go to work with the federal government. They're dedicated federal workers who are serving their nation in their local communities, many here in Washington. They're the people who work at Social Security, the forest rangers in our national parks, the folks who provide care at VA hospitals. And they're the ones who are getting the letters from Elon Musk and Doge in the middle of the night saying your service is no longer desired and we no longer value your performance. This is wrong, and this is weakening our country. And this is why we are standing before you united to saying it has to stop. I'm very proud that the CPC, Congressional Progressive Caucus, the New Democrat Coalition, others have come together. We've made a very strong statement. I'm proud to lead the 110 members of the New Democrat Coalition in joining in that statement, saying we cannot allow dangerous cuts to programs that Americans have actually paid for out of their hard-earned dollars. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. The headline is, and should be, House Democrats are united, in deep contrast to what we're seeing from our Republican colleagues. While the Democrats are focused on lowering costs, Republicans are pushing a budget that will result in cuts to health care and benefits that have been earned by hardworking Americans. While Democrats are focused on making our communities safe, Musk and Doge are firing thousands of employees who help keep planes in the sky, prevent diseases like bird flu and measles from spreading, and serve our veterans after they complete their service to our nation. Democrats are working tirelessly to bring down prices of everyday products, while President Trump, just today, levied 25% taxes on the American consumer that will raise costs for groceries, for cars and trucks, gasoline, new construction for houses, and many other everyday products. Meanwhile, President Trump and congressional Republicans are doing everything they can to give a free ride to oligarchs like Elon Musk and his wealthy billionaire friends. And they're putting the burden for all of this on our seniors, our children, our first responders, on people who educate our children, build our houses, work on the factory floor, who take care of our communities and tend to us when we are sick. It is these hardworking people who are on the crosshairs of the Republicans' actions. One of these people is my guest tonight. Adam Mulvey is a 20-year Army veteran who served 3 tours in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and 1 in Afghanistan. He's one of 6,000 of these veterans we talked about who was fired between February 13th and 24th. He worked at Lovell Federal Health Care Center. James A. Lovell Center is the only hospital in our country that serves both veterans and active military and every one of those recruits I just mentioned. His job was to help provide emergency management services, planning and preparing in the case of a tornado or another emergency or even an active shooter. He served 35,000 veterans in our area, tens of thousands of active duty sailors and other military members, and the 40 to 50,000 people each year who go through Naval Station Great Lakes. We all believe government should be efficient, but Trump and Musk are taking a sledgehammer to Americans' lives and our livelihoods. And I am proud to stand with all of my colleagues here today saying it has to stop. Thank you, and I am proud to yield back to Chairman Aguilar.
Thank you, Brad. Take some questions. Nick?
Republicans are teeing up a year-long, or at least through the end of the fiscal year, continuing resolution that could come as soon as this weekend. Is this something that Democrats could support?
Well, let's be very clear about kind of the facts, but also about where this process is. Democrats do not have the ability to shut down government. Republicans have the votes. They demonstrated that last week when they went after health care and Medicaid for American families. They have the votes. They have the responsibility to govern. But let's talk about the process. Rosa DeLauro has submitted an offer to Republicans. They walked away. Speaker Johnson has said that he wants the CR to be bipartisan. There has been no outreach from the administration or the Speaker to Leader Jeffries. So that's where things stand. Republicans have walked away, and Republicans have the votes. Then they have demonstrated time and time again that with their unity, they can go after health care and programs that we feel are important to the American people.
How would you gauge the effects on the public if the government were to shut down? What would be the level of suffering?
Donald Trump shut down government before. Many of us up here were in Congress at that time. The administration historically has wielded that ability to keep agencies open and closed, but the American public will absolutely feel it. The potential to have offices closed, as my colleagues have mentioned, that is part of the point of what Trump and Elon Musk are doing here, is to fire employees to close down offices, is their justification toward eliminating services that everyday Americans utilize and have paid for. That's where the focus is, but we understand that Republicans' goal might be to enact pain on the American people. We're angry about it. The Democratic caucus is angry about it. We do not have the votes to keep government open. Republicans have the votes in the majority here, and so that's what we are. That's what we are concerned about, and we stand, as we always do, willing to be partners in every aspect of governance. But Republicans have the responsibility here.
Can you talk about tonight? Is it an opportunity for Democrats to get a certain message out to the public? And what exactly, in a succinct way, is that message? What's the top priority for people to know?
We want the American people to know that we need to judge President Trump not just by the words that he says tonight, but by his actions that he has demonstrated. Time and time again, he has said one thing and done the other. Tonight will be no different. So we want the focus to be everyday Americans, their economic security, their health, their safety. That's what guides House Democrats every day. And we're going to use every tool available to amplify our message against this chaos. But we understand within that House chamber, he's the only one with a microphone. And so we will use our platforms and our opportunities to have our voices heard for our constituents and for the American people. Vice Chair Lieu.
Chairman Aguilar is absolutely right. We need to look at the actions, and let me just tell you what has happened since Donald Trump took over. Inflation has increased. Consumer sentiment has fallen. There is now a measles outbreak in West Texas, even though measles was deemed eradicated a number of years ago. The stock market is tanking, and the administration has done nothing to help reduce the price of eggs. In fact, you can't find eggs in a number of places. And then they made it worse by firing people who work on bird flu research. Those are the actions of Donald Trump, and he is harming America. And we'll see what happens tonight, but he can't escape the really bad record he's already set forth.
Mike?
A couple of you mentioned the tariffs. I want to ask you about the retaliatory tariffs from Canada, Mexico, China. First, are you concerned about an escalating trade war? And what's your message to the American people out there who are already concerned about the high cost of living, the affordable housing crisis, the affordable child care crisis, and then to add these tariffs? What's your message to Americans who are just concerned that their cost of living is just going to continue to go up?
Yeah, this is absolutely harmful, but we have said that Donald Trump will make America less safe and more expensive. That is exactly what he's doing. Rarely do the four of us get up here and would acknowledge Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal, but they call this the dumbest trade war in American history. And we agree. The retaliatory tariffs will be coming from those countries. This is going to make auto parts, energy, things that Americans use more expensive. And that's terrible. And the American people are absolutely going to feel it. Republicans are acknowledging that everyday Americans are going to feel it. But they are not willing to stand up against it. They time and time again have proven that they will not push back against Donald Trump. And so that will translate to Americans paying more. And it's something that House Democrats are concerned about, or angry about. But that's where the administration wants to focus their time and attention. Brad Schneider.
Thank you. So a couple weeks ago in my district, I had a roundtable meeting with farmers in my district, Farm Bureau for each of the three counties in my district. We were talking about the prospect. We're now past the prospect. China has announced a 15% tariff on U.S. agricultural products. One of the observations made, in fact, this gentleman opened up our conversation with remarking that United States farmers are the most productive. We're blessed to have incredibly fertile land, but we're also blessed to have an incredibly hardworking, capable agriculture industry. And we produce more food than we can consume as Americans. It's a good thing. We can help feed the world and a growing population. Challenge is that farming is a very low margin business. So if you take that food that we're exporting around the world and you make it more expensive, harder for American farmers to sell that food around the world, many of them are going to not make their numbers for the year. Their expenses are going to exceed their income, and ultimately they're going to go under. We saw this script 8 years ago when President Trump put tariffs in place then. And that trade war led us to have to bail out those farmers. Farmers don't want to bail out. They are hardworking people who want to succeed and pass what they do from generation to generation. And what the president is doing is undermining our agricultural sector, our rural communities, our nation as a whole.
Last question.
House Republican leadership has told its members that they should be doing fewer in-person town halls, more teletown halls, as there are more protests. And this morning, Speaker Mike Johnson said that Democratic activists are kind of overtaking these town halls in their districts. I'm wondering if you could speak on that a little bit, especially as Democrats have been doing more town halls in their districts.
House Democrats are interested in holding our colleagues accountable. But these are not paid individuals, no matter how many times the speaker says it. These are Americans who are angry. They're angry that their health care could be taken away. They're angry that Elon Musk is running around firing people out of agencies that are providing services to them. And House Republicans are running scared. That's what we see. They are scared to answer the question from their own constituents about why they continue to support these efforts. That's the nature of where we are this moment, and I think it speaks a lot about House Republicans that they aren't even willing to take those local questions, or it has to be so specific, it has to be so filtered that they don't want to even answer questions from their constituents. But we will continue. House Democratic Caucus, New Democratic Coalition, Congressional Progressive Caucus, House leadership. Everyone in our caucus is committed toward making sure the American public understands exactly what's at stake. Director.
And I think that today's letter answers that question perfectly for you. It's pretty simple to go back to your district and face Democratic and Republican voters alike if you're willing to represent your voters and protect their Social Security and their Medicare and their Medicaid and their quality of life. House Republicans would have a much easier time going and speaking to their constituents if they weren't trying to steal their health care in order to give a billionaire a tax break. So right now, I think many House Republicans have to make a choice about whether they want to fulfill their job title as representative, where they can have a town hall and actually speak honestly to their constituents, or whether they want to change their job title to Elon Musk employee. And I think that's very hard to host a town hall if who you're working for is Elon Musk instead of your constituents.
Vice Chair Luda close.
In 2017 and 2018, House Republicans ran away from the voters and didn't do any town halls. How did that work out for them?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, guys.